So the Indiana Fever are smashing every single viewership record in WNBA history. Like, it's actually getting crazy. It's actually getting crazy, the records they're breaking. But before we get on to the details of this, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. If we can hit 19.5k subscribers by the end of the day, that's insane. We were only going for 19k originally, which absolutely wild. Thank you guys so much for the support. But if you guys didn't see, the Liberty Fever game on Saturday averaged 1.87 million viewers on CBS, up 215% on the same window last year. WNBA games are up 132% across CBS this season, averaging 1.37 million viewers. The reason why they're averaging 1.37 million viewers is almost every game that's on ESPN contains the Indiana Fever. It contains the Indiana Fever, and ironically, somehow it's getting more hyped. Like, I genuinely, after the way the season was starting, I was like, oh, it's not looking great now. This is, like, the league's going to keep hyped till the Olympics, and then it's going to just die out. That is the way. If you asked me at the start of the year, especially after 4 or 5 games, I thought it was going to be like that. But now it's getting even more popular because not only is Caitlin Clark balling, Angel Reese is balling. People are wanting to watch AJ Wilson. People are wanting to watch, talking about Arike Egumbawale. People are talking about Sabrina, Breanna Stewart, Derek Hamby's. Like, Derek Hamby's, like, quest to beat the Aces is being known about. People are still rarely watching Taurasi, to be fair. I don't think people ever really cared to watch Taurasi. But either way, she might be the GOAT. So people are as interested as ever. People are getting interested in the storylines. And it's objectively just good for the league in general. It is good for the league. Like, even if you're not the biggest fan of it, it is still good for the league what is happening. But anyway, let's look at this. I clicked out of an article. But yeah, like, the amount of viewership they are drawing is absolutely wild. Like, it is absolutely wild. So, you can see the article right here. Clark's Fever continue to drive ratings, ad revenue for the WNBA. And some of these stats are ridiculous. So, you can see here. In the Clark era, WNBA audiences that would have once qualified as milestones have become routine. Saturdays, we've seen it, and making the 5th largest WNBA audience in the past 23 years. Each of the top 5 have come this season and involved Clark. Indiana's win, which peaked at 2.65 million viewers, was the 12th WNBA game this season with 7-figure audience, tying 2002 as the most since 1997. This article was originally reported that it was the 11th, mistakenly. Okay. The WNBA entered this season having gone nearly 16 years without a 7-figure audience. Clark and the Fever have played in 11 of the 12 games to gain 1 million viewers. The lone exception, Sparks Aces on May the 18th, which was the first game for Cameron Brink. Or was it the first game? Maybe the second game for Cameron Brink. But it was Cameron Brink versus the Aces. As should be no surprise, the Clark Bananas translating the higher ad revenues for networks. According to advertising analytics, WNBA regular season games generated an estimated 12.4 million ad revenue through the end of June, up 36% from this point last year, nearly doubling the same as 2 years ago. The increase in ad revenue, surprisingly enough, there was a 2.5 million, 3 million. It's not that big of a it's not that big a difference between 2022 and 2022 to 2023 as 2023 to 2024. But the increase in ad revenue is relatively moderate or modest compared to the rise in advertising impressions. 2.2 billion through June, up 57% on this time last year, up nearly 700% from just 278 million in 2022. Up 700%? I'm just also thinking, wow, the jump between 2022 and 2023 also needs to be studied too. The full regular season of women's college basketball generated $26 million in ad revenue off 2.7 billion impressions. You only get 20, I was about to say off 2.7 billion. Yeah, that's a lot more than you make on YouTube. 26 million. Let me just think of what I've made. I've got about 250 million views. So it is about what's it, like 10 times? Yeah, they're making more than I made per view, per impression on my old YouTube channel. But Fever games account for just over a third of ad revenue and nearly half the impressions. 1 billion impressions on Fever? To be fair, that does not surprise me. That does not surprise me one bit. I'm not gonna lie. That absolutely does not surprise me one bit. Because this was the most shocked I've ever been in my life to see that a video about Lexi Hull, where I misspelled her name for the first hour, has got 22.9k views, 8k views in the hour in 2 hours and 5 minutes. So yeah, obviously, it's not just Caitlin Clark if that many people are watching a Lexi Hull video. So yeah, it is kind of crazy. Fever games, but half the impressions are for Fever games. They're 1/12 to the league and they get half the impressions. They play in what? 1/12 to the games? I don't know. Maybe a bit more than that. I don't know. I'm not. But I have a maths degree, but I'm not bothered doing the maths right now. But for a third of the ad revenue is crazy. It says here they've played in just 9% of the total games so far. So played in one again. Sorry, it's 1 out of every 11 games. 17 of 53, excluding NBA TV. Indiana's played in just over a third of the games, 12 of 34. So EDO estimates that advertising during Fever games generate more than double the level of engagement than other games, which companies company measures by tracking behaviors and visits to advertise websites, searches related to the product. As for non-Fever games, Ion averaged 516k for regional action last Friday, preceded by Dream Wings at 40. You know what? For Ion, that's actually pretty good from what we've seen. It said the 2 most watched games didn't involve the Fever. So I have been keeping an eye on this, and that's actually impressive. So what's happening is again, a high tide rises all boats. And that is what we are seeing. We are seeing the rising tide. And yeah, obviously, the Fever games are getting more views, are getting a serious amount of views. They're getting a crazy amount of views. So Fever games are getting a ton of views. And even though they're increasing, the other games are all increasing too. So like, there are more people that are watching a regular season, watching the Dallas Wings play this year, than were watching the Liberty play last year. Which is absolutely crazy. Which is crazy. To be fair, Arike plays for the Wings, so she is at least fun to watch. But yeah, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for this league. And look, everyone's going to rightfully point and say, look, this is what Caitlin Clark has done for the league. Great. And I'm not going to be one of the people to say, Caitlin Clark, like that article I read yesterday being like, Caitlin Clark is not the reason for the growth of the league. She's just building on what was already there. No. Caitlin Clark is the reason the league is where it is right now. But you also have to say, like, regardless of what you think about Caitlin Clark, whether you think it's good for the league, bad for the league, it's obviously not bad for the league. But whether you think it's all her, because it is, there are still storylines. There are still... If you're involved in the Caitlin Clark story arc, you're going to be getting a crap load of views. Or not even crap load of views, you're going to be getting a crap load of traction. Just like the Sky have now become one of the biggest teams because Angel Reese is involved in that Caitlin Clark story arc. Now so is Kennedy Carter. More people know about Kennedy Carter now than ever before, as great as she's been in her career. And she's getting to the stage now where hopefully people will realize how good she is and not be focusing on the cheap shot. And then you're going to see it as well. Like, if you're involved in this scenario, if you're a hell of a WNBA player right now, like if you're a really good WNBA player, if you're a Aja Wilson, if you're a Fee Collier, if you're a Breanna Stewart, you are getting more eyes on you than ever before. So, yeah, it's Caitlin Clark's is the center of all the growth in the WNBA, but it doesn't mean that the other Fever players, the Sky, all the other teams, if you're playing well, you're getting more eyes on you than ever before, Fever or not.